Another instalment of the Glenngary Tramway update.
Welcome to update number 4. In this episode we're going to be completing the short history that we started in episode 2, which when we left it the trams had been dismantled following 5 years running in the garden. And also in this episode we're going to be addressing a problem that we've encountered since fitting the back scene, which involves lack of visibility and knowing if somebody's at the front of the layout when you're either working at the back or you sat at the back or you're having your lunch, etc. So we're going to find a workaround for that, but first we'll start with the second part of the history. It's only a few minutes long, so we'll see you after that. In update number 2 we saw how the trams came to be built and how, after 4.5 years running in the garden, they came to be dismantled in a rather dilapidated state. We now pick up the story of where they went next. After a short period in storage, it was proposed that the trams should be rebuilt with a view to them going on display in a shop window. To this end, a number of problems would have to be overcome. Namely, a new incline would have to be built to the precise angle of the original. Also, this would need to be shortened from the original 2-metre length to something more manageable. In addition to this, an electrical circuit would have to be added to allow the trams to run in an automatic mode without any need for supervision. Other problems including providing a new motor and drive system, plus more robust decals that could withstand bright sunlight for long periods of time, would also have to be addressed. We soon had a frame that could support the new incline, and now measuring 1.2 metres. With this steady base to work from, progress on the trams continues to refurbish and rebuild each part as and where necessary, but working with one strict rule that I had set myself, and that was always to use what I had originally built, not to scrap or replace just for the sake of it, but wherever possible to reuse what was original. And to this end we have tried to stick to that right up to this present date. Occasionally something will come across that you have to scrap, but only if absolutely necessary. Just as the rebuild was nearing completion, the previously mentioned house move and shop purchase fell through. Things were set to change, however, when I joined the Scarborough and District Railway Modellers Club, and within 1 year would see us attend our first public showing. Now, the trams were never built to be anything other than a bit of fun in the garden, and certainly never intended to be put under the close scrutiny of fellow modellers or the general public alike. So this first show was approached with a great deal of apprehension. In the intervening years we have gone on to do some 20 more exhibitions and continue to do so. Each year the trams receive a major upgrade of one form and another, still adhering to the working with the original, but enhancements, additions and cosmetic makeovers help to keep the trams fresh and new to visitors, old and new alike. As I just stated in the second part of the history video there, the trams have undergone makeovers and improvements every year to try and bring something new to the new season of events, and the evolution of each individual piece of the trams we will cover as we do the subjects on them, i.e. the top station, the bottom station, the winding room, etc, etc. As I mentioned at the start of this, we fitted this year the new back scene, and it's proved very popular. It seems to have transformed the model. However, it's meant that we cannot see when we're at the back if anybody stood at the front. Now, we tend to get quite a few children come running up wanting to have a go, be it a second go, could even be a third visit, quite often get that. But we can't see when they're stood there. So the workaround for that is we're going to fit a second video camera in the top station, which is going to point out of the window that I cut low down, so you could actually see into the winding room. So we can use that window because it has a view over the front of the layout, and we'll feed the signal from the camera down to the second screen we have at the back, which mirrors the one that people can see at the front, which normally features driver's eye view. Now, these screens have the ability to take two separate video signals, and we will be able to switch between whichever view we want, depending on the circumstances and what we're wanting to achieve. So although the front one will only ever show the driver's eye view, the rear one can be switched between the two inputs, which gives us maximum flexibility. If you sat there, particularly if you're on your own at an exhibition and probably taking lunch or whatever, you always know what's happening out front of house, as it were. Right, this is the camera we're going to use. It's exactly the same as the one we use for the driver's eye. It is available quite cheaply off eBay. I think it costs £6.79. That includes postage, so you can't really complain at that at all. The the voltage that it runs on is anywhere between 6 and 12 volts, which makes it ideal for our application. These things tend to be used in birds' nests, etc., and you can use it at very short focal length, i.e. close up or from a distance. You can adjust it by just altering the lens there. It's very crude, very thing, but it works, and ideal for what we want. So it's just mocked up at the moment, just to check for clearances and etc. But yeah, that's going to work fine, and then we'll take the feed off down into the innards, and it'll connect into the rear video display, and that should be job done. Whilst we're in the winding room, as it were, we can give you a brief description of how everything works. Right, at the back here we have the drive motor, which features a 100:1 step down gearbox. Now, if I can just focus on this spare one, you can see there, you just get a plain shaft on the end. So on the end of that we needed to fix some form of drive pulley. Now, the one we've used is a tooth design, which is made to marry up with a drive belt, a cam belt, very similar to the one you find on your car. At the other end, mounted underneath, is another wheel. Now, this wheel is much larger than the first, so you get a reduction in gear again. So you have to take all this into account. Each step down of the gears will give you a reduction in speed. Then from there, it drives the drive wheel. Now, the drive wheel is the original, and originally the cables used to come up from the cars, came up through these wheels onto the bottom part of the drive wheel, round, and then back out down the other side. And it was the weight of the cars hanging round this area here that provided you with the drive. That worked fine, surprisingly well actually, even if the cable was wet from when it's time of running outside. The only addition we did make was to add an elastic band here, just to give it a little bit of extra grip. This tends to perish after a while, so we just replace it once a year. Whether it's really needed for now we run inside all the time, I don't know. We've left it on. I've got a box full of spares, and we just change it once a year, as I said. Right, the groove at the top. Now that was where the original motor drive actually came on, and it came on much higher, but the original motor was one salvaged from an electric drill, the battery type, and had a totally different set of gearing to it. So that was how we achieved the reduction in gears. The motor mounted in a similar position here, but it drove to another jockey wheel here, which again gave you a step down in gears, which drove from there onto here. Now with the desire to retain as much of the original as we can, the only thing that has been removed is the secondary jockey wheel that sat there. However, it is in the kit box somewhere, so it could always be refitted as a static feature if I decided to later. Right, so if you just bear with me 1 second, we'll set it going and we'll explain how we get the trams to run in forwards and reverse. So back in a minute. Right, as the car travels up, as it's being drawn in, it operates the micro switch at the top. The whole system stops. There is then a timer which starts counting, and this will simulate passengers boarding and exiting the cars, etc. Then it will click again, which simulates the doors being shut, and then off it goes. The car that was depressing this micro switch departs, and the whole system is running in reverse, and will do so until the car on this track comes up, operates the micro switch, and the whole system will start counting again. Now the forward and reverse mechanism is just done purely by a latching relay, and if it's in one state it'll run one way, and if the relay's latched the other way it'll go in the opposite, and off it'll go all day long and up and down to its heart's content. The beauty of the timers means that we can adjust duration of stops, duration of the doors closing. Everything's infinitely variable. Plus, by use of speed controllers, the motor speed can be adjusted. When we're running a competition to guess the distance the trams have covered, we can adjust all these factors so that there is never two distances the same in any one given period. So no cheating on that score. To date, this system has proved very, very reliable, and the micro switches are all the originals are outside, and so the jockey wheels and everything else. We've just had to change the motor in the last few months, but that had done 75,000 runs, so it's quite cost effective. The motors cost about £30, and we always carry as a spare, which as I showed you, doesn't take long to change, as we found when we did it in about 20 minutes at an exhibition. So that explains how the top station works, and what I'll do is I'll post a picture of the original setup, and you should be able to compare the two and see how that has evolved. And as you can hear, it runs quite quietly. The other motor did used to reverberate an awful lot, but this is running a lot better. And so we'll get stuck in and we'll get this camera properly mounted, and that'll be another job done. So we're now looking forward to our next we'll just stop there. We're now looking forward to our next outing, which is at Barnsley in November, and that will be it for this year. We've already got some in the book for next year, so we carry on, and we're going to have a look at what little upgrade we're going to do over the winter for the next round of shows, but more on that later. So till next time, thank you for watching.